Phil Foden thought he had the first. It was a very comfortable win for Manchester City. Now, Chelsea against Brighton. You see the scoreline of Chelsea 1, Brighton 3, and you think, that's a good away win for Brighton. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye. This was a game where a referee didn't have a great job and VAR got involved or didn't get involved. What's your main takeaway from this? Obviously, Palace, Liverpool, that was your main focus, but you've seen a couple of moments from this game and the officials didn't cover themselves with glory, did they?
No, there are two penalty incidents in this game that I, quite frankly, don't understand why they weren't given. Minter was kicked in the face, kicked in the head by Gusto, and apparently there wasn't enough evidence to suggest there was contact other than Minter lying on the ground with his head hanging off. And I thought Reece James up the other end, actually at 2-1, should have had a penalty as well. I think there's definitely contact on him, and that wasn't given either. And then Brighton go up the other end and make it 3-1. So yeah, there was a lot of decisions in this game that need scrutinised, and there's a lot of decisions that were given that need scrutinised, and certainly some of the wording that we're getting about the decisions isn't quite adding up in the evidence, Charles.
Right. I mean, look, trying to defend them and struggling here, we couldn't prove there was any contact. Now, a high boot without contact is dangerous play, but can be given as an indirect free kick. But that should have been a red card. There's also a red card for a Chelsea player. And this is what kind of changed the game a little bit and put it in Brighton's way, because Enzo scored the goal in the first half. Trevoh Chalobah, after 53 minutes, initially wasn't going to be sent off, and then VAR got involved and said, yeah, he should have been sent off. Do you feel for Chelsea today, given that some days it goes for you, but today it clearly went against them?
I wouldn't say I feel for them. They can't complain. They got away with the Gusto one. They didn't get the Reece James one. It kind of comes back and forward. I didn't see incredulous looks on people's faces when Chalobah was sent off, to be honest with you. I figured a lot of the players on the field thought it was as well. So, yeah, look, you can't feel for anybody. Things go your way sometimes, and things go against you, and sometimes it happens in the one game. It's just the way it is. You have to accept it, unfortunately, and get on with it. And of course, at the end of the day, somebody like Chalobah, don't put yourself in that position where a decision has to be made against you. So at the end of the day, it's about responsibility on players and the choices they make and the decisions they make when they make a challenge or whatever it may be. So, I think sometimes it's too easy to point the finger at officials, certainly when the decision looks extremely bad. But at the same time, as a player, don't put yourself in a position where the referee can make a poor judgment against you.
Can you help me out with Brighton this season? A 3-1 win at Chelsea, 2-1 win over Manchester City, but then they lose at Everton, they draw at home to Fulham, and they lose at Bournemouth, among other games. How do we predict them going forward?
Well, I don't think you can, because of the way they play. They want to go forward at every opportunity they can. And yes, like everybody else, they want to defend well, but the mentality I think Brighton have, whether they're at home or whether they're away, is how can we get forward? How can we get in the opposition half? How can we get in the opposition penalty box? And how can we create and score goals? So, when you kind of have that philosophy, there's always going to be a downside, and that downside is that defensively you can be caught with gaps, and so that's why I think Brighton's results are a little unpredictable, because they play open, and when you play open, if you're on your game, you can score plenty of goals and win games. But if you're not scoring goals and you're open, then you're leaving yourself to the wrath of the opposition in terms of whether they take the chances that come along. So that's why it's tough to try and figure Brighton out.
What about Chelsea? I'm looking at the table right now. They're 8th, and their results, losing at Old Trafford, albeit they lost their goalkeeper early doors, drawing at home to Palace on the first day, great win at West Ham, although everybody was beating West Ham, a 2-2 draw at Brentford, a 2-0 win over Fulham, and then they go and lose 3-1 at home. So it doesn't really help me, their fluctuating form, as far as what should be their realistic target this season. Top 4 or a European spot? What are Chelsea right now?
Well, I think before the ball was kicked, everybody expected them to be... I certainly had them as top 4, maybe at the worst 5. I mean, Mike, we are talking about World Club champions here. Yeah, right. So, yeah, but listen, their problem, the biggest problem in my opinion is defensively. I think between the goalie and the 2 centre-backs, regardless of who they are, I think that's absolutely where their weak link is. They certainly could do with João Pedro consistently putting the ball in the back of the net, because if Cole Palmer's not playing, the lap's injured, you kind of wonder where the goals are coming from. But yeah, so for me, they've got to be pushing for that 4th spot, but that could be tough, because I think defensively they got a problem.
Should they be doing better when Cole Palmer doesn't play, or do you look at their stats and say, you know what, prior to this game they'd won 14 of the 17 when Cole Palmer hasn't played? So that kind of backs up your argument about their defence rather than missing their talisman, does it not?
Well, I think the other thing you've got to think about as well, I mean, what, 5-6 games, they've already 2 of them, they've only had 10 men for way too long. So it becomes difficult when you keep hamstringing yourself by getting somebody sent off. So yeah, I think again, like as I said before, it's at the end of the day, it's about players on the field making decisions, and when you make bad decisions, then you cause yourself problems. And there's no question that the 2 red cards that the Chelsea have had in the last couple of weeks have been really poor decisions, which have not only hurt the individual, but has hurt the team as a whole. So if they can get rid of that and get Cole Palmer fit, then they to me will be pushing for that top 4. But yeah, they absolutely have to cut that out, and they have to end up making it 11v11 and not 10v11.
Right, Blues, we need to have a proper chat about what went down at Stamford Bridge today. And I'll be honest with you, this one stings. This one really, really stings. Because for 50 minutes, we were in complete control against Brighton. We were playing some lovely football. Enzo Fernandez had given us the lead with a brilliant header, and everything looked rosy. But then, just like last weekend at Old Trafford against Manchester United, we shot ourselves in the foot with another red card. And this time, it completely changed the game. Let me paint you the picture. We started the match brilliantly, didn't we? Without Cole Palmer, who's been struggling for form recently with just 2 goal contributions in 2025, after that incredible start to the season, Enzo stepped up in that number 10 role. The Argentine was pulling the strings, and when Reece James whipped in that cross that took a deflection off Kaoru Mitoma, there was Enzo to nod it home. 24 minutes in, 1-0 up, and we looked comfortable. Marc Cucurella was buzzing against his old club. Pedro Neto and Estevao were causing problems, and Brighton couldn't get near us. This was the Chelsea we want to see every week under Enzo Maresca. But here's where it gets frustrating, and if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, hit that button now, because we're going to be breaking down moments like these all season long. We need to stick together through the tough times, Blues. Now, what happened in that 53rd minute was criminal. Andre Santos tried to play it back to Robert Sanchez under pressure from Mitoma, but the pass was under hit. Diego Gomez nipped in, and Trevoh Chalobah, Trevoh, brought him down. Initially, referee Simon Hooper waved play on, but then VAR got involved. After what felt like an eternity watching that monitor, the red card came out, and that's where our afternoon fell apart. Look, I get it, defenders make split-second decisions, but this is becoming a pattern under Maresca, and it's costing us points. 2 red cards in 2 league matches. Sanchez himself was sent off against Manchester United last week after just 5 minutes for that reckless challenge on Brian Mbeumo. You simply cannot compete in the Premier League when you're constantly down to 10 men. And credit to Brighton and their manager Fabian Hürzeler, they made us pay. He brought on Danny Welbeck and Brajan Gruda, and suddenly we were under siege. The pressure was relentless, and you could feel what was coming. Welbeck's equaliser in the 77th minute. Inevitable, really. Yankuba Minte whipped in a brilliant cross, and there was Welbeck, completely unmarked, to head past Sanchez. 6 goals in 7 matches against us now for Danny Boy. He absolutely loves playing Chelsea, but the real killer came in stoppage time. 11 minutes added on, and we couldn't hold out. First, Maxim de Kuyper, ET, a substitute, was left completely unmarked to head home from 6 yards out in the 92nd minute. The marking was schoolboy stuff, honestly. Mats Wiefer headed it back across goal from Yassine Ayari's cross, and de Kuyper couldn't miss. And if that wasn't painful enough, Welbeck rubbed salt in the wounds with a third in the dying seconds. Gruda played him through, and he lifted it over Sanchez to make it 3-1. The Stamford Bridge faithful were streaming out by then, and you can't blame them. From controlling the game to losing 3-1 at home, it's simply not good enough. This is the first time in 2025 we've lost a Premier League game at the Bridge, and it hurts. Now, let's talk about the controversial moments, because there were plenty. Malo Gusto caught Minte with a high boot to the head. Should that have been a red? VAR said no after a review, but I've seen them given. And what about Reece James going down in the box late on? He definitely felt contact, but again, nothing given. On another day, maybe we get those decisions, but we can't keep relying on maybes. The bigger picture is concerning. We're 8th in the table now, and those dreams of Champions League football are starting to look shaky. Yes, we've had some brilliant moments this season, winning the Conference League back in May, that Club World Cup triumph in July, where Sanchez was brilliant and won the Golden Glove, but the inconsistency in the league is killing us. One week we beat West Ham 5-1, the next we're losing at home to Brighton. Maresca's got work to do, and he needs to sort out this discipline issue immediately. Reece James, our captain, has been in and out of the team all season, with injuries. He's only made 10 appearances in all competitions. When he plays, we look so much better, but he's been carefully managed and wasn't even pictured in training earlier this week. We need our leaders on the pitch, not in the treatment room. John Obi Mikel was right when he said James can't properly lead when he's injured half the time. The defence remains our biggest worry. Chalobah's sending off was poor, but even before that, we looked vulnerable. Brighton created chances, and if it wasn't for some decent saves from Sanchez early on, despite his errors leading to goals this season, 5 in total, more than any other Premier League keeper, this could have been even worse. Where's the organisation? Where's the leadership? These are questions that need answering, and fast. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Today was unacceptable. First home league defeat of 2025, and it came against a Brighton side that's been so inconsistent this season. They beat Manchester City 2-1, then lose to Everton. They beat us 3-1, but drew with Fulham at home. We should be putting teams like this to bed, especially at the Bridge, but instead, we're handing them gifts with red cards and sloppy defending. The positives? Well, Enzo Fernandez showed he can step up when Palmer's not available or not firing. That's something, at least. Moises Caicedo, playing against his former club, was solid in midfield, and for 50 minutes, we played some decent football. But positives don't win you matches, and they certainly don't get you into the top 4. We need to be ruthless, we need to be disciplined, and we need to stop making these basic errors. Next up, we're away to Aston Villa next Saturday, and if we play like we did in the second half today, we'll get hammered. Maresca needs to get into these players' heads and sort out the mentality. No more red cards, no more switching off, no more throwing away winning positions. This is Chelsea Football Club. We demand better, we deserve better, and we need to see better. The season's still long, and we're only 6 games in, but performances like today's second half simply aren't acceptable. We've seen glimpses of what this team can do, that Conference League win, the Club World Cup triumph, but we need consistency in the league. The talent's there, but the discipline and concentration are lacking. Keep the faith, Blues, but let's be honest about where we are. This rebuild under the new ownership is going to take time, but performances like today's second half simply aren't acceptable. We go again next week, but serious questions need answering. KTBFFH.